What is up, everyone? Welcome to this emergency episode of TCR Live. There's stuff going on, maybe, and it's not good. Maybe ish. We don't know, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to dive into it. So let me get into kind of setting up the story of what's going on. So, in case you missed it, a tweet went out. And other tweets went out based on actually the press on the press conference, the minicamp press conference with Coach Kingsbury, which I watched the video of that. Kliff Kingsbury said center Rodney Hudson, who is absent, was not excused from minicamp. Said they're working through some things with Hudson. Said he couldn't say anything more right now. And I watched it, and he was asked a few times, and he kind of was like, yeah, can't really say anything right now. So there's some questions about what's going on. We're Cardinals fans, so we've been hurt before, and we're wondering, is he pulling Mason retire? Yeah. Mason or Malcolm Butler and going to retire? I mean, and is that what's going on? And so there's some questions. So we're going to talk about this, and we don't know what's going on. We don't know. We get that this is all speculation. But this is what we do. We're preparing ourselves to be let down, right? So let me get a few other pieces of information out here. So there was Kelvin Beachum was on Wolf and Luke and was asked about Hudson, and he had this to say. As far as I know, he's doing well. Just had a son not too long ago, has a young daughter, so he's putting family first as any father would. And I would say that the rest will be handled between him and the organization. Know that he's in good spirits and excited to see what comes from it the next couple weeks. So, Beachum isn't really saying anything about what's going on. He's not giving anything away, but from this quote to me, it sounds like he knows what's going on. It's the rest will be between him and the organization. It doesn't sound like someone who's clueless, but there's sort of this code, this teammate code, it seems in the NFL where, you're not going to air someone else's dirty laundry. Beachum is not going to talk about what's going on. That's part of the locker room. So there seems like he knows something, but he's not saying. And there was this interesting tweet from Jess Root, who covers the Cardinals. The fact that the Cardinals had their eyes on Linderbaum and Juergens in the first 2 rounds of the draft seems to suggest they perhaps knew this Hudson stuff was coming. And I have to say that I'm wondering if they knew. So again, we don't know what's going on. There's a lot of things. So I'd like to start by talking about just what are some of the possible explanations, understanding that we don't know, reactions to this. So I'm going to come to you, gentlemen, in just a second. Real quick, want to say to the folks in the chat, we got CB who jumped in here about 40 minutes before. Although it's still early, now I'm starting to think this horrible decision, trade away that first round pick. I mean, that center Baltimore got out of Iowa looks like a steal from, oh boy, scratched my head. Elliott's like, pump the brakes. He's not saying pump the brakes. Actually, he's like, there's a lot of problems. It's not just the center position, right? And we got Alawan, who's happy to be here, but not happy with the drama. We got Lennon Wolf, the man, the legend. Hi, guys. Appreciate you being here. We got Austin Harris. What's up from Ash Fork AZ? Well, hopefully this isn't, hopefully what's up is that nothing to see here, but we'll see. And we got Chris. Yo. Appreciate you being here. So, all right. Kyler, why don't you get us started? What do you think's going on? What are some of the possibilities and your general reaction to this kind of news?
You're muted.
You're muted, Kyler. We are.
I keep doing that. It's a leftover of the Zoom meeting era of COVID. So it can't help but give off some of those Malcolm Butler vibes. What happened last year, and we got burnt pretty bad on that. But that initial reaction is the Cardinals keep wanting to be in the national spotlight. And this offseason, we've been in it time and time again, but it's been for all the wrong reasons the entire time. And we can't catch a break, it seems, between contract disputes with our franchise quarterback, suspensions of DeAndre Hopkins, and all that. And it also made me think of what has actually been going on behind the scenes in this organization. If they did know that something like this might be coming up, they also knew the DeAndre Hopkins suspension was going to come. Kind of kudos to you for keeping so much quiet. But it definitely gives off really nasty Malcolm Butler retirement vibes. Just at this point in the season, and to be unexcused from a mandatory minicamp. The fine for missing all 3 days is pretty extensive. I think it's $93,000, something like that. So it just feels like a really bad repeat of what we saw last year.
Yeah. What do you think, Aaron?
I mean, Kyler made a lot of great points. It also starts to go back to, when there was that, Michael Bidwell had a heated meeting between Kingsbury and Keim, and then everybody was like, no, there isn't. And then there was like, yes, it was. And just like a fourth grade argument. But that maybe could have been like where a rift was. And this is what it sort of reminds me of, just this general feeling of like, okay, something is wrong, but we're not getting told the full story. And obviously, Hudson, he just had another child, so that's a totally respectable thing. And it's not hard to give up the game of football, or no, it is hard to give up the game of football, especially when you make it that far. After everybody who's ever played football and had their careers end, it's not a fun moment. And then Kyler made another good point. Like, if they had known this was true, where do you weigh the more? Where do you put more value at, the wide receiver position or the center? Now, I don't know about you guys, but you can get wide receivers are a little more replaceable than offensive linemen are. And, to kind of go off of CB's point, I originally strongly disliked the Marquise Brown trade. It's gotten a little better, but now this is putting it into third thoughts, if that is a thing. So, I even wrote in the article on Raising Zona, the Cardinals still could have upgraded the interior offensive line, but they never really did. And now look where we're at. So, hopefully we're making something out of nothing here, and then this goes away soon. And I would be gladly wrong, or happy to be wrong about everything. But this is just given just off the worst vibes that you want for a team that just made a playoff appearance for the first time in 5 years.
Yeah, and I think you both bring up a good point. It does feel like like when it rains, it pours. L1 saying here, there's a lot of little things. David Collins not apparently not fitting Joe's scheme, or at least I feel like maybe we're making a little too much of that Collins interview, but there is something to be said for the fact that he doesn't yet know if he's going to be calling defense. That there's something concerning there. And, Simmons, it seems like we can't catch a break. Right. And, and so there's a lot going on. There's a lot of question marks, and this feels like another one. So, there's definitely some concerns, and, something that has occurred to me, and something, the fact that it's unexcused, that Kliff described it as unexcused is concerning. And the reason it is this: like, teams are very mindful of PR and public image, and teams, in my opinion, from what I've seen, are going to be pretty lenient in what they, if they're okay with something, they're going to call it excuse, because saying something's unexcused is bad PR, bad press. Right. So if they have any rationale or legitimate basis to say, oh no, we knew he'd be gone, it's excused, right? They're gonna say it's excused, right? But because they don't want that bad press. So the fact that they are not considering excuse, this is not, he's like, I need some personal time for mental health reasons, or I've got some family stuff. They're going to call those things excuse. They may not like him being gone in those situations.
But you can't do anything about it.
But they're going to say, because they don't want it that bad press, they're going to say, no, we knew he'd be away. This means there's a conflict of some kind, right? So that's concerning. So that, yeah, and Chris saying, the Hudson drama is completely unexpected. When we lost him last season, it was rough. I'm concerned if we can't figure out whatever it is. And absolutely, it is concerning, right? So Austin is saying, I like Kingsbury as a person, but I don't think he commands enough respect from players as a coach. He always looks like he wants to cry when doing press. I don't agree with that. And listen, this is all a matter of opinion. I think the way it seems like the players like him and respect him. There's you have to understand that coaches and people like that, they deal with the press differently than they do the players, and there's a different relationship. So it's one of those things where if you're not in the room, I say you don't know. But so Lance, hey, what's going on? I appreciate you being here. And Hudson just had a baby, probably want some issues. Could be. But like we were saying, like if it was health issues or anything like that, the team's going to call him excused. So
man, that's a good point. That makes me feel so much worse.
Yeah, I mean, sorry. Usually I'm the let's not overreact kind of. I'm Mr. Let's not overreact to this, right?
I know you are. Yeah.
So when I'm saying that, man, so that's even more concerning, right? So yeah, Aaron, did you want to jump in?
I was just going to say, because now, in retrospect, I mean, yes, did the Cardinals end up getting Rodney Hudson? Yes, but this makes the failure of not getting Corey Linsley look even worse.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a lot of concerns. Mr. Mono, appreciate you being here. How many snaps can we expect to dirt this year? I don't know.
That were Mass Garcia snaps, not Hudson.
Yeah, right. So he's gone, so we'll see. So and I want to get to a couple of things. And Kyler has 30 minutes with us tonight, so I want to get through some points. And when Kyler has to leave, and then Aaron and I are going to stick around, so we're going to take comments from the chat. Especially, we'll really dive into those when Kyler has to head out. So what I want to get to now is, okay, let's say if there really is something to be concerned about. Obviously, we all hope that it's something that's resolved. And, I think some of the possibilities, everyone, a lot of the vibes are, is he going to retire? And that's would be a concern. But there could also be like, maybe they asked him to take a pay cut. There's those possibilities, which aren't great things, but is it going to be resolved? Who knows, right? We don't know what's going on. We don't know if it's going to be resolved, but if it isn't, what then, right? So we're going to start with looking at what the in-house options are, and then we're going to look at some of the free agent possibilities if the Cardinals find themselves in a situation where they have to replace Hudson. So when you look at the in-house, let's start with, Darren Urban posted this article today, and he posted it in Twitter that, Justin Pugh's been taking some snaps at center. He says he could see himself playing center. So, and he, Rodney Hudson absent, so Justin Pugh may be the Cardinal center. So one of the possibilities is that Pugh, in terms of in-house, is a center, right? So that is one possibility. Now, when you look at the other players in the roster who are taking snaps at center or who have taken snaps at center that you look at as possibilities in-house, it's not very encouraging. You have Sean Harlow, who, took 73 snaps at center last year. In his career, he was a 4th-round pick out of Atlanta who really didn't work out. He played for the Cardinals some. His PFF grades haven't been great. He's fine for a backup, but he's not a guy you want starting. And then you have Lacita Smith, who's the rookie, who, with rookies, you just never know. I mean, I loved the draft picks of Smith and Marquise Hayes at late round offensive linemen that I thought should have gone earlier. You never know. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that these guys are starters for the Cardinals in the coming years and are good starters, but it's an unknown, right? To have a rookie 6th-round pick who this is his PFF college grades. He's never started a game at center. He's always been a left guard and played a little bit of left tackle. Promising rookie, but you don't want to go with that as a starter. So when you look at their in-house options, I feel like their best in-house option looks something like this. DJ Humphries at left tackle, Pugh at center, right tackle Kelvin Beachum, right guard Will Hernandez, and left guard, I have Josh Jones here, but it could easily be Harlow, one of the rookies, Justin Murray. This is kind of what you're looking at in-house. So we'll let Kyler start here. Kyler, what are your thoughts about the in-house options?
I don't know how you can roll into week 1 of the season comfortably with the in-house option.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not necessarily a knock on Justin Pugh, because I think he's gotten a lot of unnecessary hatred for his play at left guard, which has actually been pretty solid. However, his play at left guard really doesn't say that much about his play at center, because we just don't know. And adding that unknown with Josh Jones, who just did not deliver at right guard, so I can't imagine left guard being a much brighter position for him. That is a rough interior of the offensive line. It would actually make the strengths be the outside. Humphreys and Beachum would be by far the strong points of that line. And the Cardinals suffered so bad to interior pressure last year that throwing this out into the NFC West just seems incredibly irresponsible.
What do you think, Aaron?
Well, to counter Kyler's point about Josh Jones going to left guard, the difference between a right and a left guard is, I mean, you got to kind of look at the run scheme of the offense. And sometimes you're better set up for your angles on a reach block, or if you're scooping, or if you're running a straight classic zone scheme and you got to get up to that second level linebacker. For a right-handed person, you're coming more from your left and going to the right. It's going to be a little more advantageous for you. And I mean, I don't know the distribution here, but I could pretty much say with about 80% confidence the Cardinals did a lot of run plays to the right last year, because they're probably running away from the best defensive lineman, who usually lines up on the left tackle. So I mean, maybe Jones has that going for him. The other thing is that with Jones being on the left side, is that with the best pass rusher over on the left side, or facing the left tackle, it's going to put you into a zone protection of pass blocking when it comes to the strong side of the field, which would be left tackle, left guard, and center. So Jones would always know that he's got inside help. And so if they run a stunt, whoever it is, he knows that he can pass them off to Pugh, and he can wait, or he can go help out on the next one. And that's what I think might be going better for him. Now, he's definitely going to have to earn his keep. Same thing with with Pugh going from guard to center. Can Pugh make the calls? Can he make the switch? Are they going to run a pin pull? Are they going to fold? Are they going to box pull? Or and then also, can he get the cadence down? Especially, we saw when Kyler Murray first came into the league, the refs were calling snap infractions just for clapping. I don't know if the clap is there anymore. I mean, I haven't watched a snap of game film in quite some time, but there's so many intricacies. But I think for someone who is as experienced as Pugh is, I don't think he's going to have a problem with it. It's just, I think you can do better, with the guard position, but I would be okay with Pugh at center.
Yeah, and clearly you were born for this conversation, Aaron, former offensive lineman. So you were really excited to talk about this.
Yep.
I'm going to simplify it, because you said a lot of interesting things there that I understood some of it, but not all of it, because I'm not a coach, and that's okay. I appreciate that what you bring here. Like in a much more simplistic way, and correct me if I'm wrong, my sense that I always get is right guards are much more oriented towards run blocking strength. You want your better run blockers because that's the strong side you run to a lot more often conventionally. And you want your left guards to be a little more pass protection oriented, because it typically is along that blind side of the quarterback. So Josh Jones was a tackle in college, and a really good one in college. So I feel like the dude's got some pass protection ability. He's still best suited to be a tackle, I think. But I feel like maybe left guard, if he has to play guard, might be a better fit from that perspective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and the other thing to remember is that the Cardinals, as much as they're deemed, all they do is air raid and all they do is throw the ball, they had pretty much a 50-50 split on run to pass options last year. And so in this offense, which is basically a version of the spread, where you distribute your offensive linemen, at least when it comes to the guards, in my opinion, doesn't really matter. Jones being a tackle in college and, being experienced to have those deep kick sets when he's taken on a wide 9 technique or someone coming way far off the line of scrimmage, whether that's a D end or a linebacker. Now when you shorten that up, it's kind of going to slow down the game for him, because at the guard, you're not out on living on the edge where people are screaming all over. In the guard, there's a lot more. In college, we called it sifting. You're looking through, okay, is this guy coming to my gap? Is he going down to the center? If he's not coming to me, I'm laying a hand and I'm pushing him out while my eyes are focused this way. That's the drag hand technique. Yeah. 2 eyes this way, 1 hand here. So I think he's and it could just be that, Jones also didn't really get in much playing time before last season. So it really was his rookie year. Mm-hmm. And going up against the man eater and human destroyer that is Aaron Donald is a tough task for anybody. Yeah. And I would be steamrolled if I ever tried to. So I give them credit for definitely trying, but I think there's going to be some improvement in Jones this year. And it all just comes down to the scheme and what Kyler Murray can do off of these reads, Yeah. Now, is the defense going to give him the look? He's going to get the ball out, and the questions go from there.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too in the weeds of offensive line schematic stuff, because it's interesting, but I think So let's get into. But I think I do agree though with Mr. Mono here that there are worse offensive lines than what we're looking at here as far as starting offensive lines in the NFL. This would not be the worst starting unit, but it would be in the bottom 10. Yeah. This is not a great starting offensive line unless some of these guys surprise, like Will Hernandez. If he becomes the Will Hernandez we saw his rookie year, okay. If Josh Jones really takes a step forward. So it's possible, but this is a concerning offensive line, right? Yeah. So, and, talking in, last thing, maybe looking at some time signings, and I want to use that as a kind of transition to, let's look at what some of the options are outside, right? Bringing guys in. So I went through and brought up a list of some of the free agent centers that are still available. This is from Over the Cap. I'll tell you right now, the bottom 3 names on this list are not really options. They're guys who have 4 career snaps or not played well, have had more snaps but really bad PFF grades. So it's not the bottom 3 names we're going to look at, but guys like J.C. Treader, Matt Paredes, Trey Hopkins, Billy Price, Nick Martin, B.J. Finney, Matt Skura, and even Brett Jones are all possibilities. So real quick, I'm going to go through here because I've got some PFF grades on these and some things to look at. So here's J.C. Treader. He's probably the best option in terms of experience, solid PFF grades, president of the Players Association, veteran, right? And we can come back to these, but I want to get through Matt Paredes, who's had up and down, but has been had better years than others, but has a decent track record. We've got Trey Hopkins, had a rough year last year, but has had some okay years. He's a step down from the others. Billy Price, we've talked about him before. They had him in for a visit. It wouldn't shock me if they did sign him. Former first-round pick who really struggled with Cincinnati, had a better year last year with the Giants than he had in the past. Not as exciting of options as others. Nick Martin only had 7 snaps last year.
That's not a real NFL player.
Okay, those don't look at those that PFF grade on 7 snaps. You don't want to look at. But
I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about his picture. It doesn't.
It doesn't look like Then you got B.J. Finney, who longtime kind of rotational player for the Steelers, has been okay. Matt Skura, it's getting less, less interest, less lower grades here. Brett Jones didn't play last year because of injury, was a part-time player most of his career, but graded pretty well. So this is another guy that's interesting. So those are the guys. We can go back to any of those if you want. I know we want to respect Kyler's time. He's got just a few more minutes. So What are your thoughts about these outside, these free agent options, Kyler?
As much as I like JC Tretter as an ex guy, and he's by far the name I've seen pop up on Twitter the most since the news came out, I doubt that he's a real option here. However, maybe without what Hudson is taking, that might be a possibility. For some reason, Trey Hopkins kind of jumps out to me as something that the Cardinals would do. I'm not necessarily saying that that's the right thing to do, but it definitely does seem, an experienced guy. He's been in the league 6 years. He can't be that expensive because his production just hasn't warranted it in the last few years. So he kind of seems like the standard of a kind of budget signing for an older veteran, or not older, but a veteran who has played okay.
Gotcha. What do you think, Aaron?
Well, I just took a quick look at the PFF grades, and I don't have the paid subscription, so I'm only going off of stuff like that. But oh yeah, you actually have them right there.
Yeah.
I think did Matt, is it Paradis or Paradise? I don't know.
Paradis. Yeah, Paradis.
MP, we'll call him that for short. Yeah. Did he actually have a better grade than Rodney Hudson did?
I think so. I don't have Rodney's grade was not good last year, and I know people have kind of been critical of PFF for that. I mean, look, his Rodney Hudson's PFF grade wasn't great last year. Let me see what it was. His PFF grade last year was 57.4.
So yeah, so technically, Paradis and Tretter would be better than him. Technically, going off of that
grade wise,
yes, yeah. That's a very short whatever analysis.
We've talked about before, like PFF grades don't capture some of the things they do, like adjustments and things like that, right?
Right. Yep. It's kind of like BMI. It's just a number.
And just Mr. Martin, yes, he is the president of NFL Player Association. So yeah.
So I mean, I would not be opposed to bringing in Paradis, or I mean JC Tretter was the first one to come to my mind, but I also think the Minnesota guy Brett Jones was interesting because I mean I like his overall grades. I mean he played. I mean it's got to be like what Eli Manning's last 3 years, or 2 years there in the Giants. So I don't know. I'm not saying he he would be above and beyond Hudson, but all you need is a bunch of players to do just enough. You don't need to have superstars at every position. And especially with the Cardinals cap situation only being at 11 mil last time I checked, he'd be a really cheap option.
Yeah. And one other note I just like to say is like, and during the press conference, I watched Kliff Kingsbury's press conference, and he talked about right now what they're doing is they're trying to figure out which position groups they need to bring more players in. So people who are wondering, why haven't they signed someone? Why haven't they signed someone yet? It sounds like their plan from that interview is they're going to go through what they're doing now to assess who they have. And when these OTAs end, when minicamp ends, but before training camp starts, that's when they're going to bring in players. So I'd expect to see a couple cornerbacks, maybe a defensive lineman, and probably a center, right? So if you're wondering why, it seems like it's not that they're sitting on their hands. That's kind of their plan. So Lance seems say stick with the cheaper previous first round pick guy Billy Price. The fact that Billy Price is the one guy on this list that they've had in for a visit that we know of, right? So that does seem to give you, if they've had him in, that gives you an insight into their thinking. So
yeah.
I don't like those grades. I mean,
yeah, no, me neither. But I'm also intrigued by former high draft picks who, can you get them? Can you fix them? Right.
Sounds like,
yeah,
never mind. I'm not going down there.
So Kyler, I know you have to jump out of here.
Yes.
And Aaron and I are going to stick around and hang out with the folks in the chat. Any final thoughts on this as you head out?
like I said, we just can't catch a break this off season. The amount of emergency group therapy sessions that we've had to have is really, really kind of depressing. I kind of would like to go back to the boring off seasons that we've had before, but it gives us a chance to talk again. So that's always nice. So I hope you guys have fun. Guys in the chat have a lot of good questions for these two.
Awesome. Kyra, thanks for jumping on here. We'll see you Thursday and have a great rest of your evening.
Sounds good.
See you, KB.
Awesome. All right. So Aaron and I are going to stick around with you folks in the chat. We want to say, hey, some of the folks, Nutsack jumping in here, how many picks has Kime wasted? I mean, listen, Kime has had a bad track record with drafting up. I feel like he's doing better this year. But every GM wastes draft picks, some more than others. And I'm not saying so, he's had a bad stretch. So I'm not trying to say, but everyone does. And the question is, I know there's a lot of questions about that. Jordan P, he's for Matt Paredes. So, he thinks Matt Paredes, and I think Paredes could be a solid option. I think, to me, and, there is Mr. Monterey's an interesting question, wondering if the fact that going back to Treader, the fact that he's NFLPA president, and his PFF grades are solid, you wonder why isn't he signed? Is there something going on in terms of, I don't know. And I try to find something, and see if there's any news on that. I don't know. Maybe there's something. Do you know of anything about that, Aaron?
I can kind of make a guess.
Oh, okay, a guess. Okay,
like an educated guess. I think the fact that Treader has been very forward in like getting player development and like safety and a bunch of other things, but also he and I think Demaris Smith really helped do the CBA, and I think there may still be some residual bad blood from that.
Okay.
And maybe it sits with a few players the wrong way, and maybe GMs don't want to take that. I don't know. It could just be that all it takes is God forbid somebody getting hurt or an absence like this for him to get signed. So I mean, we've seen later free agent additions happen in the year.
I mean, it could be that based on his status and profile as a solid player, that he's been waiting for a situation where he knew he'd be able to start. I mean, that's also possibilities, which if depending on what's going on, this could be it. We want to say hey to Robert Moore, who made it. Appreciate you being here. So yes, you made it. And the optimism kind of side of thing is, Sean Kugler's wizard, he's done a good job. And we'll see what does he do with Will Hernandez and what, and so, we don't know. And Jordan P, he thinks that Hudson is contemplating retirement, and that could absolutely be what it is. Like when you try to think about what it is, it could be he's contemplating retirement. It could be, like I said, maybe they asked him to take a pay cut and he didn't want to do it, and I wouldn't blame him. It's hard to know, right, until we find out. But the way it was talked about in that press conference was concerning. Let's see. Looking, any other thoughts in the chat if you all have any thoughts? But and let me ask you all in the chat, of these players, and Jordan's already told us he's definitely Matt Paredes would be his pick. If the Cardinals found themselves in a situation where they did have to sign someone to come in and potentially be the starting center, who would you want it to be from this list? And Aaron, who did you say? Was it Brett Jones was interesting to you?
Brett Jones would be interesting, but I would go Paredes just because I think that I just think he'd probably be easier to sign, and he wouldn't. Not like I'm all for players getting money, but I don't think there'd be any sort of hiccups with that. And Paredes, how long has Paredes been in the league? Was he there when Peyton Manning was in Denver? Yes, he was.
2015.
Yeah. So his rookie year, he won the Super Bowl, blocking for Peyton Manning. So, the knowledge that he picked up, not like J.C. Treader doesn't have any. Is it J.C. Treader? Yes. I'm sorry, I have so many ex-Packer linemen going through my head. But I mean, he blocked for Aaron Rodgers for quite a long time, and he helped make one of the best running games in Cleveland. So, I mean, it really comes down to, do you want? I don't know. I don't really know who is better at pass blocking versus run blocking because I have yet to put on the film. But like I go Paradis first, Treader second, Price third, if I had to.
Okay.
Or not Price, Jones.
Jones. Okay. Okay. Ella1 is saying Treader. So that's definitely a popular pick. Or maybe kick the tires on Price. He's a first round, maybe deserves a shot. I like Price as a backup reclamation project. I don't want to depend on him as a starter, but if you brought in both, I mean, what if you brought in Price and, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
And, sorry, just to interject here. The other thing too is the practice squad numbers went up. I think it went up to 16 total players. So, I mean, basically the way it's going right now for the Cardinals is you cannot have enough offensive linemen.
Yeah.
And if you find 2 or 3 that stick and you got to cut the rest, I mean, the practice squad is what it is. So,
yeah. Let's see. Nutsack's got the question here. Hey, Professor, can we regrade the Hopkins trade? $27 million a year for a year and a half of a great play when we could have had CeeDee Lamb, Justin Kidd, Minnesota, Pro Bowl tackle. Okay, I got to start by saying you're conflating a couple things though here with this question, because like the trade, we did not like the picks we traded for Hopkins would not have gotten us CeeDee Lamb or Justin Jefferson. We traded a second round pick, right?
And so a fourth rounder.
Yeah, and a fourth rounder and David Johnson, right? So the way you frame this question is not really a fair representation of what the alternative was. Like, it wasn't, I'm saying that's the picks that we trade, a second round pick, we could have got a good player. I still think it was a great trade.
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah. It's too early. I mean, it's not done yet. So, he's still under contract. I think he's going to come back and I think he's going to be really good. I still think he's a great player. So I don't have a problem with the trade. Now, if you want to ask the question, should we have drafted CeeDee Lamb or Justin Jefferson? I'd be like, yeah. Like, should we have drafted those guys? It's like, who did we like in the, you don't think so? I'm getting look.
Like, no to Lamb. Jefferson, okay. Yes, but
Jefferson for
you
sure.
got to move on from the Lamb thing. Cardinals fans, you got to do that.
Okay, I wouldn't have minded if they had drafted Lamb, because that's Isaiah Simmons, right? Draft pick, right? Justin Jefferson instead of Zaven Collins, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So I wouldn't have minded those. I don't mind. But those are two separate questions, right? The trade for Hopkins and should we have drafted those receivers, because you could have done both. So I still think the Hopkins trade was a good trade. Do I think we should have listen, I like Collins. I want him to do well, and I think he will. I know there's some concerns right now. I think Isaiah Simmons is a talented player, but if and I'm rooting for both of them, and I'm not trying to be negative about either of them. But yeah, I probably would have rather landed a receiver than one of those two guys, right? It was like we didn't need 2 middle linebackers back-to-back first-round picks. So So like if you're asking, should we have taken CeeDee Lamb, Simmons? Maybe.
No.
Aaron says no, and that's fine. Should we have taken Justin Jefferson instead of Zaven Collins? Maybe, if that was, I'm trying to remember if that was an option. But I still, and Austin still loves the Hopkins trade. So yeah, Aaron, go ahead and jump in on that.
The whole thing about CeeDee Lamb is the dude hasn't done anything yet, and he's had a great offense, and he plays in an easy division, and he still hasn't done anything. I mean, I respect your opinion. I really do. And I like the discussion we get. But the CeeDee Lamb trade, we should have drafted him. It's just got to stop. It's probably the one thing that I am so fed up about hearing. No, Lamb didn't do anything in Dallas. He wouldn't do anything here. Murray favors one receiver, and it's Hopkins. I mean, we saw that he never threw the Larry Fitzgerald. His career yardage to Fitzgerald was about 1,200 yards and 4 touchdowns. What a sad way to go for Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? And And then the other thing, why is all this hate on Isaiah Simmons? We needed a linebacker.
No, I like Isaiah Simmons, so I'm not. And listen, let me say this: I'm not like, I'm with you. Let's stop what could have been kind of talk. Let's figure out right. So I'm with you on that. I like Lamb as a player, and I think he's got talent. So like, if you say, would you be happy if he was part of our team? Yes, I like him as a player. I'm not, but I get you in terms of let's stop rehashing that, right? So, this is like obvious. Of course we should have taken DK instead of Isabel. Like, yeah.
I will say I wanted both, but I was still happy with the pick at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, there's questions. Zaven's shoulder problems were bigger than they let on, I believe. Wonder if he's 100% or ever will be the same. I mean, yeah, it does seem like that injury was a bigger reason for his struggles down the season. And I did a video about Zaven Collins last season, like what's going on with him. And I talked about that in that video, that I didn't know exactly for sure what's going on, but I pieced together what little bits we had of information. And it sounded like the injury was part of the problem. And I really do think, that is part of what was going on with Zaven Collins. Yeah, good.
I would like to reply to Nutsack down there. Look, we had Carlos Dansby as an all-pro linebacker, I'm pretty sure, at least a multiple-time Pro Bowler, with a defensive line that was solid but not great. So I don't buy that either.
I mean, I think this is a statement that comes out of frustration. I'm just not into the we will never kind of mentality, because that's just this fatalistic, and I get why people feel that way because they're frustrated about the way things have been. So I get that. But like, the example I always give is like, the Detroit Lions, like they drafted wide receivers in the first round that were bust after bust. And like, there was just this kind of, we need to stop drafting wide receivers. And then they drafted Calvin Johnson. It doesn't work until it does. Right. So, I'm just not into that kind of fatalistic thinking. That's just me. But, we got PC Tree Pack. Please no Billy Price if Hudson retires. He's 11 million savings. We go pay JC Turner. I mean, listen, I like I said, I like the idea of going after reclamation projects that are former high draft picks and see if you can fix them. But I don't like banking on those as key starters. I don't want to just go get Billy Price and hand him the reins. I want Billy Price to come in and be a backup. And if he somehow shows something and then earns more playing time, that's fine. So yeah, I wouldn't want to go get, him and make him the starter, So, we got Payo time. What is up, Zach? Appreciate you being here. Hey everyone, great stream. Hit the like. Yeah, please do hit the like. That definitely helps with the channel and everything. So thank you for the reminder. So yeah, let's see. We got Lance saying agree AVB about how Murray did Fitz wrong. Could have thrown to him way more. What a beautiful safety blocker. Blanket, sorry, as a rookie and sophomore that he just threw by the wayside. So, okay. So if you don't know who Carlos Dansby is, you must not be much of a Cardinals fan. I wonder if you're not a Cardinals fan. Maybe you're coming in here trolling.
I will admit that I was wrong. Apparently Carlos Dansby never made a Pro Bowl, but he was a damn good linebacker.
Dansby was a solid linebacker. Cardinals drafted him the same year that they drafted
Dash 2009 wild card. Like, come on.
Yeah, they drafted him the same year they drafted Darnell Dockett, I believe. He was a former second round pick. He did go as a free agent, I think, to Cleveland, but he came back. Huh?
He had 3 stints with the Cardinals.
Okay, and he's a solid player. Solid player. Yes, Carlos Dansby was a stud. If you don't know who Dansby is, either you're a new Cardinals fan or not a Cardinals fan. Okay. Payo's always got the best questions. Is Hudson's absence a money thing that could be linked to Murray's contract? E.g., Breeze and Colson had the kind of joint contract beef with the Saints back in the day. That's an interesting thought. What do you think, Aaron?
I wanted to bring that up. I know I've kind of been more critical of Murray, but and that's why I kind of didn't want to. But it's an indirect cause, I would say. And that's the thing. What happens, especially now? I mean, the thing that really kind of was a there's another sort of metaphor that I'm blanking on right now, but I think it was kind of a warning sign was when Deshaun Watson got that ridiculous contract, and I just thought back to, oh, okay, now what's Murray going to ask for? And while Watson, produced more than Murray has, and actually, won a playoff game, got at least to the divisional round, it's just it's an indirect cause, because you look at, we all go back to the same thing. Look at what Tom Brady did. He restructured, he took a pay cut, or he converted it to whatever they do with the salary cap nowadays, especially the Rams. This pale, your GM just plays with it like it's Play-Doh. So that's my answer. I can't continue on from that.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Is he somehow standing in solidarity with Kyler, who wants a contract? But Kyler's not weird. Absent. Kyler's been at minicamp, so I don't think it's that. I think if it's money, it's because I think if it has to do with money, it is that the Cardinals have asked him to take a pay cut and he doesn't want to. If it's money, that's what I think it is. It could be something else. We just don't know, right?
But just to go off to Mono's last comment there, this is why the Cardinals neglecting the offensive line for the last 3 years has been it's been a silent but big issue. It's kind of, it's basically like cracks in the Earth's surface, right? And eventually there's going to be an earthquake and all living bleep is going to break loose. And I don't know if it's going to be this year. I hope to God it doesn't happen. But, you just keep putting little chips in that armor, and then all of a sudden it goes right back. And we have a frustrated quarterback who just got a big contract with a terrible offensive line. And then it sort of does become a little bit like how Deshaun Watson was in Houston before all this stuff happened, where J.J. Watt told Watson, hey, we wasted one of your years.
Yeah, I do think I think that they have not done a good job addressing the long-term future of the offensive line. No doubt. I do like. I think Josh Jones, when he's played at tackle, has played well. The problem is they played him at guard where he didn't play well. So I like him as a future starting tackle, and I like the potential of the guys they drafted this year, but there's a lot of question marks because, after this year, they've got 2 guys, well, now 4 guys, I guess, with the rookies under contract, and then Hudson, which we don't know what's going on with that, and then Josh Jones. Yeah, you want to jump in there?
The other thing to remember here is, maybe all is not lost. Maybe Kliff Kingsbury has some sort of new formations out there to help utilize Trey McBride and Max Williams. If you've never, basically there's this thing called a mouse position, and it's where a tight end will line up in between, but behind a guard and a center, or a guard and a tackle for extra pass protection, or they can kind of flare out from there. For those of you who have played Madden, if you've ever seen the full house backfield, that's basically what that could be, and that could provide extra protection for an offensive line that may be suspect headed into this season.
Yeah. It's hard to know. Like I said, we don't know what's going on. There's a lot of speculation. Maybe Hudson's tired of Murray throwing shade at the O-line. I don't think that's it.
I haven't seen that either.
No, I don't buy anything like that as why Hudson would be out. Hudson's a veteran. He's been around for a long time. It wouldn't be that. Let's see. We got RM here. Only thing worse than having a bad O-line is having one that is locked up long-term. At least all of them have contract years coming up. So,
well, the other thing too is that Pugh was going to retire apparently, or he thought about retiring, which is kind of a shocker.
Yeah. They talked about in that his article where he was interviewed, or during interviews he just talked about where he was leaning towards retirement, but the Cardinals offered him a contract that was enough for him to come back. So yeah, I don't know. Let's see. We got the Carolina Crown. The only hope is if Max Williams and the tight ends we draft can block well, period. And, it does seem like that McBride is a solid blocking tight end,
don't
and
forget
Max
Ertz
Williams
too.
I'm sorry.
Don't forget Ertz too, because I'm pretty sure Ertz, blocked for at least a year or two of the good LaShawn McCoy years back in the day.
Okay. I think Ertz is more of a receiver, but he's probably capable as a blocker. But Max Williams is definitely the better blocker when he gets back. So
yes.
Yeah. So we'll see, there's a lot of question marks. We don't know what's going on. The in-house options at center are not encouraging. There are, in my opinion, though, there's some decent free agents out there. They're not as good as Hudson necessarily, but there's probably, to me, 2 to 3 guys on this list that if you told me they were going to be our starters, I'd be like, I'm not going to panic. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I can be okay with that. Right.
Do you know what SFA means?
It's some kind of, I'm not sure what,
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, it was another free agent category. I'm not sure. Max is center, maybe, probably not, but Ostimus Wilson says Ertz struggled with LaShawn. He was not inline blocker. I mean, I don't think of Ertz as really a big time blocker, so I don't know.
SFA is street free agent.
Okay, so
unattached.
Okay, there you go. So let's see. Dave here has an interesting question. Which position do you see Isaiah Simmons playing during the season? Because that's been a point of conversation. Because Vance Joseph was asked during a press conference, where will he play, and he said he's a linebacker. And then you see all over Twitter that he's part of the safety drills recently in OTAs. What are your thoughts on that, Aaron?
This may be an inflammatory statement, but if he's playing anything other than linebacker, it is a failed pick.
Okay.
I don't want to reverse Deion Buchanan, but if he does play safety, does that mean Tristan Thompson, his time could be ticking? I don't know, because why would they even do that in the first place?
Or Jalen Thompson?
Jalen Thompson. Dang it, that's what it is. Did I say Tristan Thompson? I think I did. I got my leagues mixed up here as he takes notes on that. I don't know. I really want Simmons to work out, because when it came time in the draft, it was either Isaiah Simmons or Tristan Wirfs. In both my eyes, I was excited to have either one. And, I was excited to have Simmons because freakish athletic range that he had at Clemson. And it is exactly what the Cardinals needed, because the Cardinals didn't have a linebacker. I mean, Carlos Dansby had retired after the 2017 season. So, I'd rather have him play in there, because if Simmons goes to play safety, that means, Nick Vigil could play it, but then we're going to see guys like Joe Walker get in again, and we don't want to do that.
Yeah. Sorry, my mic unplugged, so what I was doing there was...
Oh, I thought you were writing down notes or something.
Aaron with a really bad take here. I'm adding to the Aaron Van Buren list 3 more of those, and you're out of here. No, it was not that.
Screw me.
Yeah. No. Fixing my mic, I accidentally pulled the plug out. Yeah. I think that the whole deal with Simmons taking, being part of the safety drills is this. I think he's a linebacker, but they want to use him as a little bit of a Swiss Army knife, where they play him in slot and play him at safety when they're doing, alignments where they have dime looks and things like that, where they have a lot of defensive backs. And I think what they're doing is, again, this is mini camp. This is not training camp. And I think this is an opportunity to get some reps in some of those spaces and try out, get him a little more look. So I think their strategy for Isaiah has been start him as a linebacker and focus on that, and eventually let him start to pick up a few more responsibilities as he gets comfortable, and then, play a few snaps in other positions, because they do want to be able to move him around. And I just feel like what we're seeing is part of them giving him some more reps in some of those other spots, so that they can move him like that chess piece they wanted to. I don't think it's a permanent move. I think their starting safeties are outstanding. I think Jalen Thompson is the guy they want to keep around. Budda Baker, we know they love him. So I don't think this is they're moving him to safety. I just think it's, hey, this mini camp is a time. Let's get some reps there. This is an opportunity for him to get some of those reps in that spot because we can. That's kind of my take on it. I don't think it's anything more than that. Let's see. Let's see. Question: has Kliff done a good job of managing PR from the head coach position with the Cardinals this offseason? What do you think, Aaron?
I mean, Pale. If you've been watching our press conferences last year, it's always just, I got to look at the film. I got to look at the tape, or we have to get better, or or just some other sort of just generic blanket statement that doesn't answer anything. And I think this time, most of this offseason has been the same. I'm surprised that he admitted that Hudson was unexcused and that he can't talk any further, because for Kliff, that's like going the extra mile. So I'm not saying he's done a bad job, but it's just been what he's been doing. So the deviation from the norm has been little, in my opinion. I'm not sure if that answers the question. But.
So I think he has done a reasonable job. And you got to take a step back and look at what is good PR. How is PR done professionally versus what fans want to hear. And I'll be honest, doing PR well is usually boring and not giving people things to latch onto, right?
Yep.
Those boring answers that we hate, those coach speak answers where you're not overreacting and you're not you're not getting all upset about a thing, where you don't overreact, maybe even underreact. That's doing PR textbook. It's not from a fan who wants more information. We don't like that. But if he comes out, the Kyler thing, for example, with the contract, right? That was in the news cycle. Oh, Kyler's upset. Are they going to trade him? And and all this kind of the sky is falling news about the Kyler situation. And in the end, what it looks like is they're going to probably sign with an extension between now and probably training camp, and it's going to work out. And that's probably what's going to happen. It's ended up being not as big as people thought. But what if Kliff had come out and said, oh, I really wanted to be here forever, but I'm worried too. What if Kliff came out and says something like that? Like, oh my God,
panic button.
Right? And heads exploding, the news, it would have been crazy. Instead, he and Keim and Bidwell all take the PR approach that was boring, right? That was, where we normally do this summer. It's, nothing to see here. It's not what we as fans, it's not exciting as fans, but that's good PR, so yeah. And so again, there's a reason they give those kinds of answers, because that's the kind of answer that it may annoy us when, I get it. Cardinals fans are tired of hearing, you got to give them credit. We're tired. I get it. We're all tired of it, but you know what? That's the smart PR, right? So we got Roy, the viewer, Mr. also known as Tapatio Man. Appreciate you being here.
Oh, name change.
Yeah. So appreciate you being here. So yeah. Let's see a couple other questions and comments here. Let's see. We have another good question here from Tiff. Looks like Kyler's getting his money soon. We just don't know how soon. As far as depth, which notable players are left that are worthy of signing? Now, are you asking free agents, or or you mean re-extending players on the roster? I'm guessing since you're starting with, well, I don't know. Maybe if you could clarify, Tiff, are you asking which free agents are out there we should sign, or are you asking which Cardinals players should be extended? I guess we could try answering both questions, right? So let's start with Aaron. Which Cardinals players do you think on the roster should they be re-signing soon, or should they prioritize re-signing guys that are? And then we'll answer the question. Apparently, Tiff wanted to ask what free agents should they look at. So let's. I think those are both interesting questions, right? So, so why don't we start with which players do you think they should prioritize extending that are getting near the end of their rookie deals or or their existing contracts, and then we'll go from there.
Well, it should definitely be DJ Humphries. He's been, since I've started watching, the longest tenured Arizona Cardinals offensive lineman since not AQ Shipley, but there was another center before him. Maybe, I don't know. So him. What else? Well, I think even Hudson's contract is coming up too. So of course, I've written about another one, but those are the top two off my head.
Okay. For me, I mean, I do think they need to extend Humphries. I know some fans are frustrated with that and, with him and his play last year, but left tackles, as he said, left tackles don't grow on trees.
Yep.
I think you need to extend him. I think Jalen Thompson is a guy that they should extend whenever. I think he's still got a few years still, but when it's time to extend him, he's a guy he's worked out. He's one of the, he's a pick. He was a supplemental draft pick. He's a guy who seems to have worked out. You want to keep him. He's a good open field tackler. So those to me, Humphries and Jalen Thompson are the two that I would say are priorities. Byron Murphy Jr. is a question mark. We got to see more from him this year, so we'll see.
He's got to allow less completions to earn that.
Yeah.
He took a step forward with interceptions, but now that pass completion's got to come down.
Free agents. That was what Dave was really asking about. So what free agents do you think they should bring in? Give me just like maybe 2 or 3 free agents you'd like to see them sign.
Joe Hayden, Ndamukong Suh, and Matt Paradis.
Okay. I like it. I think I like Joe Hayden or at cornerback. Joe Hayden, Robert Alford, any cornerback in that area. Joe Hayden, I wouldn't mind. He's been healthier than I'd like them to bring Hayden and Hudson. Bring both of them in here and see how it pans out. I am not on the Ndamukong Suh train. I know a lot of people like him. He's older than you think. He's like 35. I know he's been a good player. I'd rather go with someone like maybe Linval Joseph or a guy I keep saying who's a little younger. He's like 29, but is Danny Shelton, run stuffer. He's maybe not the sexiest name out there, but he's a solid run stuffer.
But those old DNs do so well down here. I mean, we got something out of Dwight Freeney.
There you go.
We also got something out of who was Corey Redding?
Yeah,
back in the day. So I mean, it can work. But
that
was a totally different era.
I don't mind. Like that's why I'm like Linval Joseph wouldn't be, or Sheldon
I wouldn't
Richardson.
be mad with that either.
Yeah, Sheldon. But I would prefer Linval Joseph or Sheldon Richardson over Ndamukong Suh.
I like Sue because we need a trash talker on this defense. We saw what Tyrann Mathieu did for this team, and it was just so much fun.
Maybe. And then, I feel like a center, obviously, I mean, listen, even if everything works out with Hudson, I wouldn't mind bringing in a center, right? So,
yep.
Another really interesting question. Andrew Markham saying, which starter do you think is going to surprise us the most and which one will disappoint the most this season? Aaron, any thoughts on that?
For the surprise, McBride. I don't think nobody knows how to really operate with 2 good receiving tight ends out there. Everybody knows the high profile wide receivers in Ertz, but he could kind of, hopefully be our tight end savior, the oasis in the desert, to make a double pun there, especially at that position. And in terms of disappointing, it's I can't move away. Like I'm at a tie. No, I'm going to decide here. It's AJ Green.
Okay.
I think AJ Green is just, there's going to be so many mouths to feed that his production is going to be lower, and especially his chemistry comment with Murray, that it just sits, and I don't see him getting quite as close to the amount of yards that he had even with the Hopkins suspension.
Gotcha. Okay. For surprise us, I'm gonna say this is an interesting one. I think that's a tough one too. I'm gonna say Rondale Moore.
That was this close to that.
Obviously, everyone, if you've been following my channel, I love Rondale Moore. I've done a lot of videos about him from the day he was drafted. And Kliff, even in the press conference today, talked about that Rondale Moore is going to get more. He's going to get more touches, more targets. He's going to be taking Christian Kirk's role, and so I think I'm going to say Rondo Moore. And I want to say AJ Green because I think that what's going to end up happening is AJ Green will start out getting some looks and touches, but then once Hopkins is back, Hollywood Brown is going to play on the outside more. I think Green will see fewer targets later in the season, but I'm actually going to say Byron Murphy. I want him, and I'm not trying to be a hater. I want Byron Murphy to succeed. My fear, I think Byron Murphy is a good slot cornerback who is best playing in the slot. And I think they're going to play him outside a lot and he's going to keep struggling.
So your surprise what's your surprise again?
Is Rondale Moore.
Okay.
And my disappoint is going to be Byron Murphy because I think if they just stuck him in the slot, he'd be good. I just think they're going to move him around too much and he's going to struggle.
Good old Patrick Peterson.
So yeah,
it's what's interesting about that is he is the last remaining part of that local Arizona trio that they just wanted to work so badly between Christian Kirk and DJ Foster and him. And so I'm really hoping he does. I mean, we've seen flashes and now it's just take the next step.
So the question is Byron Murphy a re-sign or trade asset? Byron Murphy to me is a prove it. That's what he is. He's a guy who needs to prove that he's worth extending. This is a pivotal year for him. So to me, he's a prove it, right? CDH, thanks for being here. Appreciate you jumping in, saying hello to me and Aaron. Definitely appreciate you jumping in here. Let's see, got a few other folks. I Am Bears here. Should we be worried that our last 2 first-round picks are looking like neither one of them will call the defense? To be scary, especially since we let Hicks go whenever seemed ready, still not good. What do you think?
I would agree with about half of this statement. I still think Simmons is still performing. That first year, 2020, was rough. I mean, pandemic, let's face it, that's tough for anybody to do. And the whole NFL quality dropped that year. But he took some big steps. And also, let's not forget, Isaiah Simmons pretty much won us the game against the Seahawks in week 6, the primetime game, where we finally beat the Seahawks at home for the first time in 9 years. Yeah. And then the Collins pick is just a head scratcher because it's not like Simmons bottomed out to what Rosen had done, before Murray got picked. But it didn't make any sense because they had Hicks, who was a good player, and they even had Devondre Campbell, who should have never left. Yes, Lance at the goal line too, of course. So I thank you for bringing that up. So Simmons is he's good. I just don't want him playing safety. But I am concerned if Zabin doesn't do it because he's supposed to be that run stuffing middle linebacker. And I don't know. Here's the thing with the Cardinals. If you pick a small school linebacker in the first round, history has shown us that at least when they're in Arizona, they don't do much.
So I would say the Simmons, it doesn't bother me that Simmons isn't calling the defense because that's never the role he was going to play. That's the Mike linebacker, and Simmons was never going to be the Mike. He was going to be like a will linebacker / Swiss Army knife. So Simmons was never going to be calling the plays. The thing that concerns me about Simmons is, he's full-time starter last year. That's a plus. He's made some nice plays. That's a plus, but his PFF grades have actually been pretty low. And he hasn't been as good as we would like thus far, but I still think the tools are there, and I think he has a lot of potential. With Collins, I think it's fair to ask is the fact that he's not going to be the Mike calling the plays. If that is the case, we don't know yet, right? There's some uncertainty. If that is the case, then that would be concerning. He looked good before he got injured last year in the limited snaps, so I still think he's got potential, but there is this fear does he, and Elwan saying, you need to listen to the Simmons interview talking about Collins. He's still not getting it and making bad mistakes. So it's
is that on the official site?
There is an interview with Simmons. I don't know if it's on the official site. I'll check it out though. It might be on the YouTube channel.
I didn't see that yet. I would love to see it.
I know that I saw some quotes from that. And I do want to watch that. And they need Zaven Collins. They need, he's got potential, but if he's not able to be that Mike, that's a concern. Like, are they going to move him to edge then? Or should he have been an outside linebacker in a 4-3 where he's not, so there's a lot of concerns about that. Right. So I'm the optimist. I still think he's got potential. But yeah, there's some concerns. So yeah.
I mean, and the other thing is that just it's small things, and whether you want to put me in the category of, well, he only remembers these things, but I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I can't get over his, we're going to bleeping kill everyone when he was drafted. It was an unnecessary comment. Yes, you're in spur of the moment. You feel a lot. I can't imagine what it's like to get picked in the NFL draft. I never did.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just, that was the first moment where, besides the shock of the pick, that's when it really got awkward. And to me, it's almost exactly like Josh Rosen's 9 mistakes comment. There's added pressure on you now because you made that kind of a statement, and especially when you linebacker back to back, it's an uphill battle. I want him to succeed. I would love to have a run stuffing linebacker because we get gouged on the run, but we'll see. And rookies are rookies, and hopefully the second year sees a lot of growth, just like Simmons did.
And so I don't know. I don't have a background playing or coaching football, so I don't know how viable this is. But this is an interesting thought. Maybe Buddha could call the defense. I don't know how problematic that would or wouldn't be. I don't know. But you all saw that, like when JJ Watt tweeted out like that thing where like Zaven, thought Cold Stone Creamery was a mom and pop place, and JJ Watt.
But what does FBI mean?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Of business industries.
It's probably an acronym that I don't know of. That's might not be appropriate. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Grant, I appreciate you being here. Yeah. Thank you for the support. So
Eric,
I don't know. And then, so I don't know. Like, I hate to I don't want to say anything. Football intelligence. Okay. It's a football intelligence issue, right? I mean, they raved about his football intelligence and his leadership coming out of college. I don't know. You just wonder, like, is he, I don't know. Did he talk the talk? I don't know. More than I don't know. He's an interesting guy. So I hope he works out. So I don't know.
You can't blame the guy who, grew up in small town Oklahoma for not really knowing what Cold Stone Creamery is.
Yeah. And you got to maybe give him a pass for that. Right.
The other thing is just like, too, I spent most of my life in the Midwest. I spent 6 months in Flagstaff. But when I went to South Carolina and I was there for a year, I never heard of Zaxby's. I never heard of, any of the other stuff down there. So it's just normal stuff.
Yeah. Patrick saying Kevin and Zaven said Zaven was big, fast, smart, but after seeing the interview, I met us. I think academically he did do well. I think it's maybe a little bit of a small time kind of. There's something. When you're from a small town, sometimes there's things you don't understand in terms of city life and things like this, but that doesn't mean you're not smart. So I don't want to get into that, too much, but we appreciate Elwan TCR deserves over 1 million likes. Let's be real. Appreciate that. Always so kind and thoughtful in your support. Appreciate that. So we're going to wrap this up in just a minute. To get over 1 million views, Joseph Aaron would have a large cardboard poster with big red behind them. They'd have to do a Cardinals Red Sea dance. Yeah. We'd have to do something first. Yeah. You know what though? I'll tell you what, like 1 million views for one video. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, my channel's getting there overall, like lifetime views. It's lifetime
9,000
views is over 228,000 views. So in a couple of years total, but getting there. So I want to throw a thought out there, just something, and this is a tweet that do the dance.
What is the? I've never seen this.
I don't know, but I'm not doing.
Neither am I.
Release the big red. I'm not doing.
I only danced at my wedding, and that took a lot to get there. So,
I think we'll answer this question, and then I want to share a quote to give us something to think about. Very early season record predictions. I'm going with 10-7 still. What do you
I'm right
think?
there with you.
Yeah, 10-7.
Especially after this news, it's really lowered the ceiling. I think the floor is the same, but the ceiling's lower too. Yeah,
I think that's right. I think so too. So there's some things to be concerned with, but I want to give end this on a positive note. Okay. An optimistic note. They always say any given Sunday, and they always talk about you just don't know until they play the games. And like when the team, if you have a good roster and you add talent, your chances of being good are better. And if you lose talent, it's worse, but there's still a huge variance in outcomes. And I'm going to share a tweet from Blake Murphy, who does Cardinal stuff, earlier today. And I think he made a good point. He's got this original tweet and then he retweeted with a comment. As far as a bit of positivity for Cardinals fans, there's no guarantee of a good or bad season just based on your off season. Once Arizona had an off season where their star linebacker was suspended for the year, quarterback coming off an ACL torn late, and starting wide receiver broke 3 fingers in camp. And then he followed up with, also don't forget that the starting running back ended up getting hurt in the opening week of the year and missing 3 games, plus their star cornerback left in free agency to go back to the Jets. That ended up being their best season of all time, going 13-3.
That was not 2015.
That's 20.
That cannot be 2015.
I think it is, like Darrell Washington. We'd have to go back and look at it, right?
Who broke their fingers in training camp?
I'm not sure. We can fact check his tweet. I knowing Blake's work, I'm guessing he's probably accurate. So here's the point.
Go on.
So here's the point here, right? Like, we can look at how everything's going wrong, but you just don't know. So you go into a season expecting things to be great and they fall apart and they don't go well, or you go into a season not as excited. If Michael Floyd, I think, okay, that's probably who the receiver
is. But the star cornerback would have been Patrick Peterson. So I don't
No. That was that Cromartie? Yeah,
but he wasn't the star corner.
He was good. But let's, he was a star. But okay, let's not get into the minutia, right? The point being, this was a year a lot of things went wrong going into the season, right? A lot of things to be worried about. And the tea will make Aaron reach for the whiskey. So here's the point here. There are reasons to be discouraged. I'm not saying the teams are going to go 13. Well, it would be 4 now with the 17 games. But what I'm saying is, anyone who's saying our season is over, we're gonna win 6 games, this is it. I've watched football for a long time, and I know that things don't always go the way you think, good or bad. If you have a quarterback who can make plays and you have some semblance of talent, you have a puncher's chance. This team still has enough talent to surprise people, but they also have enough concerns for it to go sideways. We just don't know. But to say that it's definitely going to be a bad year, history shows us that it doesn't always work out that way.
Well said, Joe.
Any final thoughts? I know we got to get out of here.
No, I think this was probably one of our most vibrant chats of all time since I've hopped on here. I mean, comment section just popping off. 4th of July, like, you guys are great, and we appreciate you guys, especially coming out for the emergency version. Don't forget, we're going live again on Thursday.
Yes, we're going to talk about the defensive depth chart.
Yes.
We're gonna
Yep.
finish. We're gonna pick that up. So yeah. So appreciate y'all being here. Yeah. Thank you, DB, for being here. Appreciate all your great comments. I apologize for not getting to all of them. There were a lot of great comments and questions. We got to what we could. So what I'm going to do is, as I always do, I'm going to put up my channel members Ring of Honor to thank all the folks who support the channel. I appreciate you all being here. It's been a lot of fun.
Type usually once a week in the off season.
Yeah. Yeah. So for sure. So we'll see you all on Thursday. Peace.